Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me today at the Punla Coffee Table. Today, I'd like to share with you one of my family's new traditions in what we call in Remembrance. It's on the Passover, and this is a really fun time with our family and friends, and it's meant to be shared. And I think it's meant to be a celebration because we know what this means. You don't need to follow any of the food or drink that we're going to present. These are the things that we use. It's not about having the right food or the right drink. If you want to use cookies and milk, I think it's great. If you want to use matzah and grape juice or wine, I think it's fine. That's up to you. And I want to make that clear right up front. What I'm going to share is just how we do it and how we plan to do it this year. And over the next few sessions, I'm going to walk you through what that evening would look like. And I'll even show you the recipes of the dishes that we plan on using this year. But again, it's not about any special dish. It's all about remembering what Jesus has done for us. And I think before we get started, I want to just, again, remind you, this is a party. It's meant to be a celebration of what Jesus has done for us, for each and every one of us. And it's a lot of fun. And I want to thank you for allowing us as a family to share this with you, and I hope you will see if this might work out for you in your family. And I really like this painting. I'm going to put this up. It was painted by Walter Rain, and it's titled In Remembrance of Me. And I think it captures the way that they probably sat. I mean, this is not a perfect rendition. This is the artist's rendition, but it kind of helps us get a little perspective on how they would have been setting and how distant they might have been from each other, and the fact that this was meant to be a party. It's the Passover. So this is part one. So let's go ahead and begin. And because this is a celebration, we try to keep snacks on the table during the whole meal. Things like mixed nuts are very traditional, but you can do chips and dip or cut vegetables and fruit, whatever works for you. I just think it's a good idea to keep things on the table. People can kind of chomp on them as we're talking. It's this idea of keeping this festive mode going through the whole evening, and people are usually happy when they're eating. At least in America, they definitely are. So this is our Last Supper remembrance on Passover. Now, Passover begins at dusk. So I like to begin our activity as close to dusk as possible on that Passover evening. Once we assemble together at the table, or even if you want, you could sit on the ground. I think that would be an excellent way to do it. It doesn't really matter where you are, but as you get together, and then I think the first thing to do is to begin with a prayer to kind of get yourself into that mood of focusing on Jesus. And this is just an example that I might use is, Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice for us. Bless our time together as we remember what you did for us. And I pray all these things in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen. So just short, focusing back on what the purpose is that we're gathering tonight. So tonight we have come together to remember the Last Supper. And we wish to get a feel for the traditions and the events that Jesus and his disciples would have been experiencing that night. But as Christians, we don't need to observe a Jewish Seder, a Passover Seder. So that's the Jewish culture, and I know that's what they did, but that's not really our objective. Our objective is just kind of get to a feel for what that night would be like, and then insert our Christian beliefs into this remembrance of what Jesus did for us. And so we want to have a lot of fun. We want to enjoy ourselves, but we need also to seriously remember what Jesus has done for us as we go through this night. And I hope we can highlight and retell portions of Jesus's last week leading up to the crucifixion and then the victory of the resurrection. Now, step one is candle lighting, the Remember and observe. Let me read from Psalm 27, verse 1, out of the New King James. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Now, traditionally, the two candles used in the Jewish Passover Seder represent the words remember and observe, or keep. And this comes from Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, and from Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 12. The candle lighting has traditionally been used to symbolically sanctify the celebration of the Passover. But tonight, we will light these candles to help us focus on remembering and observing what Christ has done for us. We also pray to our Heavenly Father to bless our fellowship and guide our commemoration of the Lord's Passion. Amen. So, while we light these candles, let us all recite a candle lighting blessing similar to what the Jews would during the Passover Seder. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us Jesus the Messiah, the light of the world. Amen. Step 2 is the explanation of the 4 cups, or the 4 promises. Traditionally, a Jewish Passover Seder has 4 cups, which correspond to the 4 I wills recorded in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6 to 7. I'm going to use the New King James. The first is sanctification. I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Deliverance. I will rescue you from their bondage. Redemption, number 3. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. And number 4, praise. I will take you as my people. Now, these 4 cups are a picture of God's deliverance of Israel in the Exodus story. But for us as Christians, it also points to our own deliverance, since Jesus, our Messiah, is represented in these 4 cups and these 4 promises. Number 1 would be sanctification, and I'll read John 17, verse 19 from the New Living Translation. And I give myself as a holy sacrifice for them so they can be made holy by my truth. And then deliverance, number 2, John 3:16 out of the NIV. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. And number 3, redemption. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 7, again from the New Living Translation. He is so rich in kindness and grace that he purchased our freedom with the blood of his Son and forgave our sins. And then number 4, praise. From Hebrews chapter 13, verses 15 to 16 from the New American Standard. Through him, then, let's continually offer up a sacrifice of praise to God. That is, the fruit of lips praising his name. And do not neglect doing good and sharing, for with such sacrifices God is pleased. Tonight, as Christians, we will primarily focus on the cup of redemption, which was most likely the cup that Jesus used in his Last Supper remembrance, which has now become our communion cup. Step 3, which is cup number 1, the cup of sanctification, or the Kiddush. The first cup is part of the, and I know I probably mispronounced this. I'll put the pronunciation on the screen for you. It's the Kiddush, or the Thanksgiving. God promised that he would bring his people out from under the cruel oppression of the Egyptians. For Christians, we have a parallel to this because God had promised to bring us out of the bondage of sin and death through the faith in his Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Let's read from Romans chapter 6, verses 5 to 11. I'm going to read out of the New King James. For if we have been united together in the likeness of his death, certainly we also shall be in the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves of sin. For he who has died has been freed from sin. Now, if we died with Christ, we believe that we shall also live with him, knowing that Christ, having been raised from the dead, dies no more. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death that he died to sin once and for all. But the life that he lives to God. Likewise, you also reckon yourself to be dead indeed to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus our Lord. So let's all recite a praise to our Lord for the cup of sanctification. Blessed are you, O Lord, our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Now this year we're going to serve a classic charoset, which is a dip to go with our matzah, and then some Mediterranean quesadillas to kind of keep our theme of the unleavened bread going. Now, I personally like to have a dip as the first course, mainly because that would have been a traditional thing during the Passover Seder, and it just is one way that we can kind of keep some of the tradition. Even the charoset is actually a traditional Jewish dish, but it is really, really yummy. And also this year, again, we'll do the Mediterranean quesadillas to try to kind of keep that unleavened bread and keep that Mediterranean flavor going. But you can use anything that you want here. And here's kind of our recipes. There's the charoset and the Mediterranean quesadillas. Now, step 4 is the explanation and breaking of the matzah. Now, traditionally, at the Passover table, there are 3 matzah, or matzo, loaves that are wrapped together in a special pouch. And this pouch is the unity of 3. And they're placed at the head of the table. And the middle sheet of the matzah is removed from the other 2 and then broken in half. One part remains at the table, and it's actually used during the meal. But the other half is wrapped in a white linen cloth and then hidden away or buried. It is given a new name now, and it's called the afikomen, which means I will come again. And it returns after the dinner, kind of as a dessert. And it is redeemed or purchased back with a coin from one of the children that will bring it back to the table later. The Hebrew word for this action is called shafan, which means hidden or concealed. And this is most likely the bread that Jesus used during the Last Supper, which we use to commemorate his death and resurrection through communion. And as Christians, we can see the symbolism in each of these steps. The 3 matzo are the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. The middle matzo symbolizes Jesus, the Son, who is broken on our behalf. He was buried, and then he rose again on Resurrection Sunday. So I want you to notice something about the matzo. Matzo has been symbolically pierced, bruised, and striped for us. And you can see that in this broken piece of matzo. And this is to remind us of the words of the prophet Isaiah when he spoke about the Messiah in Isaiah 53:5. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The punishment of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Now, traditionally, they would take a piece of the matzo and recite a praise to the Lord, something similar to this one. Blessed are you, O Lord, our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the land. Step 5 is the reading of the story, or the Majid. Majid is, it means story. And it also is referred to as kind of this personal storytelling. So it can be the storyteller himself. Traditionally, in a Passover Seder, the Exodus Passover story is what is read. But since we are commemorating what Christ has done for us, instead of reading the Exodus story, let's read together portions of the Passion story out of Matthew chapters 26 through 28. But before we read our Majid of the Holy Week, tonight is a very special night. It's Passover, and it's Wednesday on our calendar. As you may know, the day of the week for Passover and the festival of unleavened bread changes every year according to the Hebrew calendar. Passover is always on the 15th day of the Hebrew first month of Nisan, and the festival runs through the 22nd of the month. For us as Christians, we celebrate Easter, or Resurrection Sunday, on the day of the festival of the first fruits, which is actually the first regular Sabbath after Passover, whatever that Saturday is. The next Sunday, the first day of the week, is the festival or feast of first fruits. And that is when we celebrate Easter, or the resurrection of Jesus. I think it's just kind of amazing how that fits together. Just let it sink in for a moment. Jesus is the sacrificial lamb of Passover. Jesus is the first fruits of the resurrection. And we know this from 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 20. But now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep, or the resurrection. That's what Paul is saying. And if that's not enough, a few short weeks from now is the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost. And we know what happens then. And Matthew 12, verses 39 to 40 say, But he answered and said to them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Now Jesus, very clearly predicts that he will be killed, and he will spend 3 days and 3 nights in the grave before his resurrection. So let's go ahead and fast forward. Jesus is making his way into Jerusalem on that triumphant Sunday before the crucifixion. And it's recorded in John chapter 12 and Luke chapter 19, Mark chapter 11, Matthew chapter 21. But after that triumphant Palm Sunday entrance, he goes to the temple and he cleanses the temple. He teaches the Olivet Discourse. He predicts the destruction of the temple. And then we pick up our story later, and this is where we're going to start our Majid, which is in Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. Now on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying to him, Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, The teacher says, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When evening had come, he sat down with the 12. Now as they were eating, he said, Assuredly I say to you, one of you will betray me. And they were exceedingly sorrowful, and each of them began to say to him, Lord, is it I? Then he said and answered, He who dipped his hand with me in the dish will betray me, and the Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written of him. But woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born. Then Judas, who was betraying him, answered and said, Rabbi, is it I? And he said to him, You have said it. And as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, Take, eat. This is my body. Then he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which I shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new, for you, or with you, in the kingdom of my Father. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Now this is going to be our intermission number 1, and we are going to probably serve this appetizer. It's called a potato kugel. It's a Yiddish word which just means a baked casserole. It is a very traditional dish that would often be served on a Sabbat, or especially the special Sabbats such as Passover. I really like this dish. It is also very good. I like it with a little hot sauce, actually, but there's lots of variations of this. And again, this is the recipe we'll be using this year. But if you try this, it's easy to make and it tastes really good. So I'm going to pause for today, and we will pick up the Last Supper Remembrance in our next session after the first intermission. And let me just close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these opportunities to remember what you've done for us, Lord, and for us to fellowship together as we remember. We are designed to remember together, and that's how you taught us, and that's how we wish to do this, Lord. So help us to keep focused on you and what you've done for us throughout this amazing celebration. And I pray in your name, Lord Jesus, amen. So let me leave you with this today. We need to be very purposeful on how we remember what Jesus has done for us. And I hope you will take time out of your very busy schedules, and I know you have a busy schedule, to spend time with your loved ones, remembering Jesus during this amazing time of the year. We should do it all year long, but especially this time of the year. And starting with his last meal, and then his sacrificial death, his burial, and then his resurrection, the victory 3 days and 3 nights later on Sunday morning, Resurrection Sunday. It gives me goosebumps. And I hope you will join us for the rest of this little series showing you, how we are doing our remembrance feast for the Last Supper. And if you like this, share a link with one of your friends. And if you have any comments, by all means, contact me. I'll try to put up the recipes that we're using for our feast, which is really a multi-appetizer, multi-course type meal. It doesn't really matter what you use. We're trying to kind of do a little bit tradition, a little bit of what we like, and I think it's what your family likes. The focus is to be on remembering what Jesus has done with us, for us, not the actual food, although eating the special food makes it really special for us as a family. So I want to thank you again for joining me today at the Punla Coffee Table, and I hope you have enjoyed this. So if you have any comments, please contact me. My email's on the screen. So until next time, from the Punla Coffee Table, God bless.